Welcome back for part two of, in my opinion, 50 awesome songs from the 1990s. So, with that said, like I said before, in part one, this is based on strictly many genres of music all combined. It is just specific tracks that I highly personally recommend from the 1990s. So, with that said, first rundown of what was in part one. First up, Pepper by the one hit wonder Butthole Surfers. Next, Stripped cover by Rammstein. Too Sexy by Right Said Fred. Into the Blue by Moby. Then, Countdown to Extinction by Megadeth. Still My Sunshine by LEN. Mambo Number 5 by Lou Bega. Believe by Cher. What is Love by Hathaway. Bad Seed by Metallica. All I Want by The Offspring. The Saga Begins by Weird Al Yankovic. Larger Than Life by Backstreet Boys. Jump Around by House of Pain. Walk by Pantera. Basket Case by Green Day. Then the Morning Comes by Smash Mouth. Tomorrow Never Knows by Our Lady Peace. Also, Break Stuff by Limp Bizkit. At 30 is Tomorrow by Silverchair. 29, Pretty Fly for a White Guy by The Offspring. Welcome to Paradise by Green Day at 28. At 27, Big Guilty Pleasure, Ice Ice Baby by Vanilla Ice. At 26, at the end of the previous list, Leader of Men by Nickelback. Coming in next at number 25 was a it was the only major big hit in the mainstream that this band would have. They are better well known in the Christian alternative scene, but this was the one big uber hit and really about the only really memorable song, in my opinion, from the band. Mostly because it really was perfect choice for the alternative scene at the time. Coming in at 25 is the song Flood by Jars of Clay. If you've never checked out the track, or the song rather, Flood, I do highly recommend checking out. The song is legit, actually a really good alternative rock song of the 90s. Coming in next at 24, definitely a one-hit wonder, and a very interesting, unique song, as it sounds like really two separate songs combined into one, but still, it definitely has a heavy nostalgia for me personally. Coming at 24 is the song How Bizarre by OMC. If you haven't heard of How Bizarre, I do highly recommend checking out the song. I personally really enjoyed even to this day. And the female vocals is what really seals the deal and makes the song really good. But the cheesy, like, basically just the cheesiness of the male vocalist, as not the best voice for singing, but still, it's just so much good cheese and ham. I love it. Coming in next at 23 is a song, or as many of us like to call it, the Beaver Song. Coming 23, as we all call it, the Big Brown Beaver Song at 23, and it is done by the band Primus. And if you don't know Primus, they're a very unique band, to say the least. Coming in next at 22, off of their debut album, the really the first humongous major single from, at the time, of course, the post-grunge band Creed. At number 22 is the song My Own Prison off of their debut album, My Own Prison. Which, if you've never really heard My Own Prison, I do highly recommend checking out. The album as a whole is really good, and the song is superb. Coming in at 21 is the one-hit wonder, the song Bitch by the artist Meredith Brooks. Great song overall, has a good flow, and obviously strong message in the song. And Meredith Brooks actually did do some other really good music, but this is really the only really big song that is even known by her, unfortunately, though she did a lot of, I think, pretty solid work overall, like many other one-hit wonders. Coming in at 20 is a band I always highly recommend checking out more of their work from. I love a lot of their stuff, and I like the fact so many people misinterpret the song. At number 20 is the song Barbie Girl by the band Aqua. And seriously, there's a much deeper, complex meaning to the actual song Barbie Girl than what you would think at first. Just look at the music video and stuff. But seriously, if you've never checked out any of Aqua's other music, I do highly recommend checking out some of their stuff. Coming in next at 19, one of the most criminally underrated power/thrash metal bands in the 90s, as they had, I can name off at least 3 solid, incredible albums they did in the 90s. And what also helps this song is the vocals. The female backing vocals is great, and the main male vocals by, well, in my opinion, one of my personal favorite metal vocalists of all time, Matt Barlow. And it's off of their 1996 album, Dark Saga. It is, which was a Spawn concept album, by the way. But anyways, coming in at number 19 is a great song I highly recommend called A Question of Heaven by the band Iced Earth. If you've never heard Iced Earth music, I do highly recommend checking out Dark Saga, or check out some of their other 90s work as well. Like Something Wicked This Way Comes is another great album of theirs, and Burnt Offerings. Coming in at number 18 is parts 1 and 2 of the trilogy, but only parts 1 and 2 were released in the 90s. And that is, 18 is The Unforgiving Part 1 and 2 together, from, of course, Metallica at 18. And, of course, Unforgiving Part 1 was on the Black Album, and Part 2 was, I believe it was on Reload or Load. I sometimes get some of the songs mixed up between Load and Reload. Coming in next at 17, another great song from The Offspring, and it definitely holds a special place for many of us, and we'd rare not acknowledge the crappy redone version of the song many years later, or the crappy cover that was done by Limp Bizkit. Or not Limp Bizkit, but sorry, Five Finger Death Punch. With that said, number 17 is the song Gone Away by The Offspring. Next, coming in at number 16, one of easily the best songs to ever come out of grunge. And that is the song Even Flow by Pearl Jam. And if you've never really listened to any of Pearl Jam's work, I highly recommend. Personally, I hold them in much higher regard than Nirvana, personally. Out of the big 4 of grunge, Nirvana is probably my least favorite of the 4. I prefer Soundgarden, Pearl Jam, and also I prefer Alice in Chains over them. But seriously, Even Float, superb song, and for a time there it was actually used as Chris Jericho's theme in WCW. Next, coming in at number 15, by the one-hit wonder here in America, though they had a lot of great music done over in the UK where they're from. At number 15 is Tub Thumping by Chumbawamba. And seriously, check out some of Chumbawamba's other work outside just Tub Thumping. It is legit really good. And the fact that was like their seventh album that had that song on it. Kind of weird. Coming in at number 14, off of their debut album from one of my personal favorite bands, definitely of the 90s. Coming in at 14 is the song Semi Charmed Life by the band Third Eye Blind, which has a very heavy nostalgia for me personally, as that was one of the bands I got into towards the end of the 90s, and I still regard their debut album as the best. Though there's many people that will defend their third album specifically. But for me, coming in next at 13 is off of the this new metal band's debut album called The Gift of Game. The song is called Butterfly, and the instrumental sample that's used in the background of the song was originally from Red Hot Chili Peppers, but the song is called Butterfly by Crazy Town. If you don't know much about Crazy Town, look them up. They actually did a few other, I think, good tracks off the same album. Specifically, I personally really liked Hollywood Babylon was another track I really liked, though it was never released as a single. But coming in next at number 12 is the great old time classic Two Tickets to Paradise by Eddie Money. And trust me when I say you would know the song if you heard it, if you don't know it by name, because it was used in games like Grand Theft Auto 3, Grand Theft Auto Vice City, and I believe it may have also been also in San Andreas as well. But seriously, great song, and it's a perfect song to listen to when you're just driving down the highway in the summertime. Can't do any better than Two Tickets to Paradise. Coming in next at number 11, a very well known song nowadays, and it was a big track at the time in the late 90s for Generation X at the time. Coming in at 11 is You Get What You Give by the New Radicals. Coming in at number 10 is one of, I think, the best remix tracks ever off of a classic from the 80s, originally by the rap group um, Public Enemy. And they would do a redone version of the song called Bring the Noise with one of the big four, that being Anthrax, which would also be used on the soundtrack of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. Which, definitely, I can't think of a better song to be like the main theme outside of Bring the Noise. Perfect song, just like Gorilla Radio is another great track on that album. Next, at number 9, is the criminally underrated ska band of the 90s with a superb song called The Impression That I Get by the band The Mighty Mighty Boss Tunes. And if you've never heard their work, I highly recommend it. It was cool the fact they also implemented stuff like trumpets and everything into their rock music. Very much, it was a merger of really like a blues big band style mixed with rock. And in fact, a lot of times the band would perform with like full suits and stuff on. It just gave it a much more class look to it. And overall, just a very unique sound. You don't hear a lot of anything like that nowadays. And I wish ska music would make a comeback. Coming in at number 8 is the song. Yes, I get a lot of people like the original song by anyways, well, originally by Coolio. I prefer the parody version a lot more. For me, coming at number 8 is the song Amish Paradise by Weird Al Yankovic. I much prefer it over Gangster's Paradise. Coming in at number 7, one of the greatest goth artists with great brooding music in the 90s. If you weren't listening to bands like 9 Inch Nails, you were listening to this band. Coming at number 7 is I really liked the take they did with this original classic song Summer Breeze by the band Typo Negative. If you've never heard anything Typo Negative, check them out. Summer Breeze cover they did was also on the soundtrack to the movie I Know What You Did Last Summer. Coming in next at number 6 is another superb, great cover song. It is a cover song. The original song was done in the 80s by the band New Order. This is the cover by Orgy, which is a criminally underrated band of the late 90s new metal era, great industrial style. The song is called Blue Monday, and if you never heard, well, do yourself a service and check it out. Next, coming in at number 5 is the all-time classic, arguably my favorite Green Day song of the 90s. Coming at number 5 is the song Brain Stew off of Green Day's album Insomniac. Coming in at number 4 off of their second album, that being Human Clay, is the all-time classic track by Creed. At 4 is Higher. And, well, I'm pretty sure you've heard Higher at least once in your life. If you haven't, oh, that's just weird. Coming in at number 3 is the great, superb, I think one of the best cover songs I've ever heard. This is the song is called How Soon Is Now, originally done in the 80s by the Smiths, though it would get, I think, a great cover version done by Love, Spit Love. And that is, well, like I said, How Soon Is Now, which was used in the movie Cruel Intentions as well as in The Craft, and would later become the theme for Charmed. Coming in at number 2, easily my favorite industrial metal song of the entire 90s. This was the song that introduced me to my all-time favorite German band, and that being Rammstein at number 2 with their song Engel, which would be off their second album, Sehnsucht, which would of course also have their biggest hit in the States, Du Hast. There's many better songs on that album, like the song Sehnsucht is great, though I will argue Engel is the best song off the album. Coming at number 1, should not be a surprise at all, it is by the biggest of the big four. By, of course, Metallica off of the Black Album, in my opinion, the most iconic song that Metallica has ever produced. Coming at number 1 is Enter Sandman. And there is no one rival, in my personal opinion, other than Enter Sandman, as the track has such a great build-up for like almost 2 minutes, and just right in your face with the great riff, the great vocals from James, the drum work, everything is top tier when it comes to even the music video, personally, I really like. But with that said, that is, consider this recommendations, in my opinion, 50 all-time classic songs of the 1990s. With that said, leave a comment below. Mention some of your personal favorite albums of the 90s. What was your personal favorite genre of the 90s? For me, it was more like rock/alternative rock was mostly what I listened to, though I also have a weak spot for some new metal and of course post-grunge. But with that said, I'll see y'all next time. Stay safe out there.